Hello everyone and welcome to Cinderful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the Grey. Well, it is getting closer and closer. The Age of Sigmar FAQ will be out any day, any week now. Hopefully, it was promised in December, so let's hope we get this, game patch and FAQ this month. So what I'm going to do today, I've talked about things that need to be changed for the game before on the channel, but now I'm going to be a little bit personal. These are going to be more my own things I'd like to see. So rather than, game-wide issues like situations with certain scenarios or mortal wound shooting and stuff like that, these are going to be my own wish list. A lot of this will probably involve like points costs or slight rules changes to particular units that I use. So you'll probably see things like cities at Sigmar, Stormcast Eternals, Gloomspike gets Beasts of Chaos feature more, mainly because they are armies that I play personally. And so what I want to do is I'm going to give my own wish list, things I want to see in the patch, in the FAQ, and we'll try and lump some things together, but I'm going to give you 10 good things that I want to see anyway, and that I'd like to see, and I'd love to hear from everyone else, their own wish list, their own, fantasies of what their perfect situation would be. Now, obviously, I'm going to make sure that none of this gets too broken, because, I could wish for my Free Guild General on Griffin to have 1 million wounds and be a 2-up save re-rollable 5 times over, but that's never going to happen. So, with wish listing on this, I'm going to try and keep things reasonable on how I want it to be, and so let's get cracking on into it. Let's have some fun. Let us know in the comments below, like I said, about your own personal wish list, and tell me how terrible my own are as well. So, let's get cracking. And so, number one, first of all, I would like to see the Free Guild General on Griffin and the Dreadlord on Black Dragon go to a save characteristic of 3+. Now, I don't want this to always be the thing. I want them to have the base 4-up save characteristic, but I want them to be more like the versions of Crawlboys like the Killer Boss on foot, where if he has the shield, his save characteristic changes, much like, if you take the certain weapon combination on the Maw Crusher, it churns from a 4+ to a 3+. This means you can go down to that 2-up save. It's weird that these two models didn't get that changed, that they only got +1 to their save from that, and that they continue to get that. So I'd like to see them go into what all these new books are getting. For me, I love both these models running in my armies, and it would be really nice to see this be a thing. Next up, well, Stormcast Eternals, Liberator and Sequitur parity with Vindictors. Now I know Liberators are by far the best at 5 model units compared to Vindictors, but there are some slight things I'd like to see changed about both units. First of all, can we just make the 3-up save a characteristic thing? Once again, much like the Dreadlord on Black Dragon and the Free Guild General on Griffin, I would personally just like to see when they have shields in their unit, which are the majority of the models in the Liberator unit, you get a 3-up save characteristic rather than a +1 to your save. I think this would just be the better way to do it. It makes them, on parity with everything else that has this in the game. So just keep the rules simple and keep the same things happening on the same units. If you get these shields, you get +1 save, you get a better save in your units. Next up, I'd like to see certain units not use up reinforcement points. Now, this doesn't have to be straight up like ignoring reinforcement points, but I think certain units, maybe like my Scourge Runner Chariots or Drakespawn Chariots, and units like that, Gyrocopters, etc. I think if there's ways to make them battle line, then they maybe can have an option similar to what Gargants have. So you have the two options for Gargants, where you either have a single Gargant or you have a unit of 3 Gargants, of the little baby ones, what I'm talking about. So maybe this could be the same way, that you get access to 1 Scourge Runner Chariot or a unit of 3 Scourge Runner Chariots. I think this would make many units much more interesting in the game and allow you to fill those large units or those models that really weren't an issue with being in large numbers. So a unit of Scourge Runner Chariots of 1 or a unit of Scourge Runner Chariots of 3. You can never, in 2 will cost you a reinforcement point, but you can always take a 3 for no reinforcement points. Number 4, I'd like to see all command abilities follow the generic rules for command abilities. So in the core rules for Warhammer Age of Sigmar, with the command abilities, they posted rules for having certain ranges that, your general got 18-inch, totems got 18-inch range, you got 12-inch on all your other characters, and units can only issue to themselves, etc. I would like to see this just become generic across the game. Whatever your book says, get rid of that FAQ. I do not like it. I would much rather, especially when we're going for a game being more simplified, simply have that, well, if it's a hero using command ability, here's 12-inch range. If it's a hero using, that's your general using command ability, has 18, and a totem has 18, and units can use it on themselves. I would just like to see command abilities and all their ranges just completely made that sort of same level for all of them. It would be great and just simplify the game at a much needed level, you know, not having to worry about, oh, is this a 9 inch, is this an 18 inch, is this within 24 or wholly within 24, whatever. Make it those generic rules. It should have always been that way from the start. Number 5, I would like to see reinforcement points able to be gotten from battalions. This has been something I've talked about with a couple of friends. Now, the idea would either be have specific battalions that unlock reinforcement points for a unit inside said battalion, so you can have this new upgrade available. I think this would be a really fun one, and an interesting one if you make it not available to, say, have the same rule as you know, unified, so it can't be a one drop with the extra models in it. So you choose to either be, you know, unified, or you can get an extra reinforcement point inside that battalion. Could be a really interesting take on battalions, and could be a generic rule that I don't think would break the game in any way, but just allow maybe some units and some armies like Skaven or Nighthorn to definitely take advantage of it a little and get a little bit more out of the game. Number 6, Gloomspike Gits need help. Now, Gloomspike Gits, I think, are the army in the game that got most hurt by the brand new edition. That whole thing was stacking debuffs of -1 to hit around the table, and they can no longer do that. So I think some serious changes are needed for Gloomspike Gits. Now, we may have a new battle tome on the way, and that may, I guess, fix a lot of these issues, but I think the way to fix Gloomspike Gits is to simply keep them as the debuff army, but give them a wider pool, rather than a deeper pool that they currently have of this continuous -1 to hit. Spread out that pool of debuffs to, you know, like -1 attack, -1 to move, -1 to move, or other things like that. Give them that wider pool of debuffs ability, while we'll keep the flavor and keep the idea of what the army does really well, but make it so, you know, they're actually able to use all those debuffs. Number 7, Mortal Wounds don't work on Unleash Hell. Now, I think the simple fix to this is Mortal Wounds, or anytime you generate a Mortal Wound through Unleash Hell, it does an automatic wound rather than a mortal wound. One of my big, I guess, dislikes of it is, you know, the multiple units of mortal wound dealing shooting units. I'm not a big fan of mortal wounds in shooting in general en masse, and I'd like to see mortal wounds from Unleash Hell disappear, because it can really make some of the charges not fun for the person actually charging, and we want units to be charging. For me, this is a combat game. That's what I like to see happening. So I'd like to see mortal wounds on shooting gone away from Unleash Hell. Number 8, I'd like to see some generic mount traits. Now, there's multiple armies that don't have their own mount traits yet, feature a ton of monsters, and we've seen, you know, some get added to armies like City of Sigmar, but really it's only one specific rule for a Griffin and one for a Black Dragon. I'd like to see some generic mount traits come available. This, of course, is going to be an issue, because you could create some really, I guess, broken sort of creatures from this, but, you know, you could make them, I guess, just basic ones, like maybe, I guess, +1 to hit and wound when it uses Titanic Jewel, or +1 to its +1 damage to its stomps, and stuff like that. Make some interesting mount traits out there. There's some generic ones. They're not going to be too overpowered, but do give options to armies that don't have them for their own monsters. Number 9, and this one is totally a personal for my favourite army. I'd like to see the Blackout Fleetmaster just give a flat +1 attack to units near him. We obviously know that he currently gives +1 attack to melee weapons, but I'd really like to see him just give +1 attack to all weapons from a Blackout Corsair unit. This could be really fun, like, just to see it go and get extra attacks on the shooting to give them 3 shots each. I mean, they are only like 5s and 4s, or 4s and 4s at best. So this could be really fun to, like, see if, like, a short-range shooting army could definitely get that little bit of improvement out of this, getting the extra attack on all of the different weapons. And number 10, I'd like to see all scenarios change to the 1-2 more scoring system. I really like this, and I think, you know, we're going for simplicity in the game, so make this a scenario. You can add extra rules and depth to those scenarios with the additional rules outside of that, but keep the scoring the same. This really makes for interesting scenarios. This really means a lot of scenarios get drawn back in and don't become such, I guess, one-sided affairs in some cases. There are some scenarios that can really get out of hand with how they score. So yeah, definitely I'd like to see 1-2 more scoring for all scenarios. But that is my list of 10 things I'd like to personally see in my little wish listing for the FAQ. So let us know what you'd like to see for your own FAQ wish list in the comments below. Well, that's the end of the video. Please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, while you're at it, if you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our fine little community here at Sinful Gaming, you can do so by following the link in the description of the video to our Discord server. Also, linked in the video's description, you'll find links to our Patreon and YouTube members where you can help support the channel in other ways as well. And you'll get a special shout out at the end of the video, as well as YouTube members getting some cool emojis to use during our live streams on YouTube. We'd like to give a special shout out to everyone who helps support the channel via Patreon and YouTube members. So a special shout out to Christian Weir, James Soren, Cowspawn, AJC, Kenny Lowell, Outer and Shop First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Cure Dynamic, Agu, Anthony B, Anton Nielsen, JJ, Austrian Average Wargamer, Domir, Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Steve T, The Real Zio, Chris Wallace, Ronya, Vinny, Lockloric, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Revenar, and Wolfric Nick. And a special thanks to, first of all, Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing channel artwork for us, and to Xmorphic, who does all the amazing background work for the Discord server. Once again, everyone, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, everyone. Stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the Grey. Ciao for now.